I miss you. So here's my virtual hug today. Here's my virtual pound. Here's my virtual high five. I miss you. And today, for the first time in a while with Netart's Friends Church, you might be possibly doing the BYOC, bring your own chair, lawn chair. You might be outside of someone else's home in our church and watching this video together with them. If you're not doing that, that is totally okay. You might be in your home watching this video with your family, or you might be at home alone watching this video. And I'd encourage you to call a friend and watch the video, pause, have the conversations with them. So, let's jump in. About 13 years ago, Molly and I began sponsoring a child through Compassion International. He lives in Honduras, and he was set to graduate this spring and to start going to a local university. We were super excited for him. Then COVID-19 hit, changed everything. So when it hit, we tried to contact Compassion International because we wanted to see how's he doing, what's the situation. We found out all of the Compassion offices in Honduras right now are closed down, so there's no real way to get through. So we took a backdoor route. We found him and we found his mom, a single mother. We found them on social media and we made a connection and used a little bit of our bad Spanish. It was fun, life-giving. And we found out that they don't know if their school year is going to be lost or not. They said that nobody goes out, nobody works. They only have one day a week to buy groceries, and then they have to go back and shut themselves up. But they can only buy groceries with what income they have, but they can't work, so they can't pay bills. And along with so many people in this world, they're asking, what in the world are we going to do? And as I look around at what everybody is going through, there are so many people who are hurting right now. For some, they don't know how they're going to afford their next meal or just essential costs to living. And that's even happening right here locally. This past week in Tillamook County, I encountered someone needing real help. They only had a few dollars to their name to cover their essential expenses essential to life, and they were trying to figure out, where am I going to turn? And across our planet right now, that's happening. People are hurting. And even for those who have enough food and enough shelter, they're hurting. They're feeling a lot of loss. We're feeling the loss of relationship, like just the loss of closeness and physical touch, like that I can't really pound you or put an arm around your shoulder right now. And we're feeling the loss of possibilities, the death of dreams. Plans are having to be abandoned or changed so much and so fast that we're all experiencing whiplash. And it feels like a lot of loss. People are dealing with all kinds of pre-existing medical conditions, and now new things are cropping up, but it's under new circumstances, so they're trying to figure out, how do I receive the care I need in a timely manner? We've all heard, and you may be experiencing, that mental health is really suffering right now, and relationships are just strained. They're under more stress than usual. For some people, they've lost their role. We get our sense of identity and purpose in this world somewhat through our social networks and how we function within those social networks. And for some people, that has all been stripped away. So they are not with the people that they are usually with, and they are not functioning in the way that they used to function. And so they're feeling this loss of identity. Like, I don't really feel like I know who I even am anymore with all this stuff just like washed away and gone. In a normal crisis, in most circumstances, when you're going through a crisis, you can reach out to someone who's on more stable ground than you are. And it's like they're not going through the same thing that I'm going through. So I reach out and say, hey, you're kind of grounded right now. Help me balance. Help me get grounded. In this case, we are all going through the same thing. And so you might reach out to someone to try to get some balance, and there's no telling if they're actually balanced right now. There's no telling if they're actually going to help you and be able to ground you, or if they're going to, they're going to lean on you, and you're going to say, I wasn't ready for that. I needed to lean on you, not you lean on me. And so many people are hurting right now. Look at what everyone's going through. There's a pair of images that show up in the Gospel of Matthew, and they feel way too familiar right now. Way too familiar. They feel like a picture of what so many people are experiencing. And the images are, one, a bruised reed. That's one of the pictures. And maybe you can see that this reed right here is bruised. It's cracked out pretty bad. And the other image is a smoldering wick. These are pictures that describe someone or something that's broken to pieces, torn apart. This is the language, the imagery that this is trying to capture. Just hanging on by a thread. Strength is shattered, crushed, brokenhearted. It's someone or something that has no stability, and it's like the lights are about to go out, and you're just about broken down. And so even the slightest thing could impact you permanently. It's like you're this close to losing your fire forever. Now, those images, they don't define who's strong and who's weak. They don't define like who can hack it and who can't. Even a strong flame can be smothered and can be smoldering to the point of being extinguished, nearly extinguished. Even a strong reed can be damaged, bruised to the point of being super fragile, like shattered and just nearly broken off. And so before we jump into the gospel today, just take a moment to connect with those images, the bruised reed and the smoldering wick. In what way are those images a picture of your experience during this time? In what way are they a picture of what we're all going through right now? So take a moment and have that conversation with one another. Pause the video now. Jesus lived in a world of bruised reeds and smoldering wicks. He lived in a world full of people who had no lifeline. They didn't have a safety net. They lived just a whisker away from complete disaster, ruin, like curtains, lights out. People who asked, what in the world are we going to do? And the way that Jesus moved through that world, he was constantly binding up the brokenhearted people, the bruised reeds, the smoldering wicks. That's the way, those are the words of Isaiah that he used even to characterize his ministry. Jesus' disciple, Matthew, was so moved by the way that Jesus walked through the world and interacted with people that Matthew reached back 800 years to the words of the prophet Isaiah. And he said, Jesus fulfills these words that Isaiah wrote back there. He said, Jesus takes these old words and fills them up with life and with meaning. He completes them. And so, here are those words. Here is my servant, whom I have chosen, the one I love, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry out. No one will hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out, till he has brought justice through to victory. In his name, the nations will put their hope. I can't find a single person in the Gospels who Jesus treated as dispensable, discardable, good for nothing, worthless, irreparable. Jesus treated every single person with possibility as someone who could be healed, repaired, reignited. And it didn't matter if they were a foreign, idolatrous military leader who had always called Caesar Lord. It didn't matter if they were a foreign woman who just couldn't keep a relationship to save her life, or if they were a small child, a nobody in their world, or a drunkard, or a prostitute, or a leper, a reject, an outcast, a tax collector, a deformed person, someone with no way of earning an income, an annoying person. Jesus saw all of these people through the eyes of possibility. And even those who opposed Jesus, he spoke to with this sense of possibility, asking questions. Even his woes, his warnings, they were filled with hope and with possibility. Like perhaps they would come to see Jesus differently. Perhaps they would repent. Perhaps they would take that beautiful, refreshing walk away from the things that had been destroying them, destroying humanity. In our world, so many people look at us and they see us for our bruises. They see us for our smoldering. They see what's broken about us. It's easy to spot that stuff, what we can't do, what we can't offer, what's wrong with us. And they want to quarrel and raise their voice and win the argument. We're all bruised reeds. We're all smoldering wicks. And Jesus sees that. That doesn't upset Jesus. But that's not all Jesus sees. Because Jesus sees you always through the eyes of possibility. Jesus sees the fibers of you, not just the stuff that is like hanging on by a thread and broken, but the stuff that really could be strong. That spark that could be reignited. Theologian and philosopher Nicholas Walterstorff says it this way. He says, sometimes when the cry is intense, there emerges a radiance which elsewhere seldom appears. It's a glow of courage, of love, of insight, of selflessness, of faith. He doesn't write that as some kind of a intellectual, ooh, I'm going to sound pretty. Nicholas wrote those words after experiencing the death of his own son. in a climbing accident. Sometimes when the cry is intense, there emerges a radiance which elsewhere seldom appears. A bruised reed he will not break. A smoldering wick he will not snuff out. So here's the discussion question for you all. Why? Why do you need Jesus to see not just your brokenness, but to see the possibility in you? Why do you need Jesus to see more than just your bruises? Why do you need others to see the possibility? So go ahead, pause the video, have that conversation. Jesus doesn't only treat us the way that we need to be treated in our own bruisedness, our own smoldering. Jesus lives his life as a model for us to follow, a pattern, a way of relating to others. Now, it really doesn't take much to break a bruised reed or to snuff out a smoldering wick. I mean, talk about fragile images. Think back on your quarantine experience so far. Could you say about the way you've treated others during this time, could you say, the bruised reeds in my life I have not broken during this time. The smoldering wicks in my life during this time I have not snuffed out. If you can't say that, you are not alone. There's this old saying, hurting people hurt people. And the quarantine translation, it goes something like this. It's, well, the longer you're locked up together, the more likely you are to hurt one another. The more likely you are to start making a ruckus, raising your voice, or in Isaiah's words, quarreling in the streets. Because quarantine is hard. It represents all kinds of loss and fear and anger and frustration. So many people are hurting right now. Look at what everyone is going through. So in this time, when so many people are asking, what in the world are we going to do? What if Jesus isn't raising a ruckus? What if Jesus isn't shouting? What if Jesus isn't quarreling in the street? What if Jesus is quietly binding up the brokenhearted, treating the most fragile of people with gentle possibility, bringing justice to the nations? What if that is happening? How are you to participate with Jesus in that? So here's your question, your final discussion question to have with one another. If this is the way Jesus moves through this world, be specific for how you are going to follow Jesus. Name a specific way this week that you can be intentional. Make sure that you don't break a bruised person in your world. How are you going to make sure you don't break them? How are you going to make sure that you don't smother someone who's smoldering? Have that conversation with one another, and then wrap it all up by praying for one another and praying for our world. Love you, Neat Hearts Friends Church. Hope you have a wonderful day.